Well, you have to create a need or a purpose, right? If you don't have a purpose or a goal, then there's no point existing.
In the past several decades of his career, Benny Fairbank has worked in international turnarounds. He's also worked for quite a few billionaires. In this behind-the-scenes interview, Benny shares billionaire advice that he learned working for billionaires and helping big companies in their turnarounds. He also applies this knowledge in the company he now runs, RedFOX Labs. Let's get to it.
Yeah, customers in some sense are the same way and staff are the same way, and you just got to make sure that you send out enough signals to show that your intentions are in their best interests, because sometimes your words or actions you can't always back that up, and you can't always please everybody. But if you're working towards an end goal and a greater good, you just need to remind people where you're headed and how it benefits them. Because anytime you address any audience or any group or any staff members or any seminar, you've got to understand what's in it for them, for the people that are listening. What do I get out of this? Otherwise I'm giving you my time and I don't get anything for it. So it's easy for us to stand up and say, we've done so great, we've done this and we've done that, but people don't care. If people hear that you're going to grow 20% next year and everyone's going to have to work harder, and then you walk away and say, yes, everyone's deflated. If you walk away and say you're going to work 20% harder, but you're going to get compensated more than 20%, and you're going to have opportunities to rise the ranks, and you are going to be the next leaders of the organization, it's the same exact message, but they walk away saying, there's something in this for me. If I work harder, I get something for it. So I've been tutored by some pretty good people like your Richard Bransons and your Denis O'Briens and some of these big billionaires. And these guys get it. And when I go back and work for some other person who runs a big company and says, this is what we talk about and stuff, I think to myself, you're missing the point. None of these people want to follow you, and none of these people like you, and none of these people want to work for you. None of them trust you. And they say, it's not about me, it's about the brand. And I say, that's cool. And it's great to have a strong brand. And it's good to die for the brand. But at the end of the day, people work for people. And if the best boss that they ever had leaves and goes somewhere else, doesn't matter how good your brand is, they're all going to follow that person, and they're going to go want to work for that person because that person makes them feel good. So don't sucker yourself into thinking that a red logo up on a wall back there is the reason people get out of bed every morning. It's what that stands for, and the people that are driving that brand stand for, that make you get out of bed in the morning, and knowing that you contribute to something that's positive and good in the world. So yeah, I think I probably spent 20 years in the soup dealing with people that were selling lies and drinking Kool-Aid that they believed. And then I got to work for a couple of the really big guys that when you first meet them, you think these guys are, pardon my French, these guys are assholes. They're like horrible people. But then you realize, no, they're not. They're just getting done what they need to get done to make sure that everybody that depends on them gets what they need. And they're selfless because they do it at the expense of others. You get an Elon Musk and he says, I'm going to the moon. I'm going to build rockets and I'm going to Mars. And everyone says, no, you're not. You're an idiot. And then he goes, what about the 10 people that think I'm not an idiot? And they say, I don't think you're an idiot. I can help you do that. And then he goes, all right, you guys surround myself with people that believe what I say, no matter how stupid or weird it is, that it can happen. And if I surround myself with enough people who believe in that cause, it will happen. And it is happening. So this is not a madman. This is a person who has found other people who are like-minded, who believe in his cause so strongly that it will happen. But the hardest lesson that people learn, especially with turnarounds and stuff, is that if I go into an organization and there's 1,000 people there and everybody's unhappy and they know that the time that the company's going to wind up is near, and they've been a family and they've been there since the start, this is what startups problems they have. They go through different phases and you need different people for different parts of those startups. But what you do is you go in there and you say, I have to sack 500 of you. And people say, what sort of a terrible man are you? You've come in here, we're already on our knees and you're going to get rid of half of us. And you say you can either have 1,000 miserable people that continue to be miserable and be given false hope, or I can cull it back to 500 people who are true believers who I can make a huge difference in your life. And the 500 people that have been dragging themselves out of bed each day to go to a job, to do a job that they know they're terrible at, that probably won't be there. And the only reason you're probably still here is because you can't find another job. Go out and find something that you enjoy doing and that you're good at. And they hate you, but then within 6 months, they come back and they say, thank you so much. I went and found a better job and now I'm really happy. And the 500 people that are there build something new. You build a new culture, you reinvent it, and it becomes 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. But they all should be there, and they're all the right people, and they all believe in the same purpose. So realistically, sometimes you have to greatly disappoint people to get towards pleasing the vast majority.
That's really good advice.
And people can't, and that can't sit in people's consciences very well. Even me, after having done 12 or 13 of those, I still have times where I have to pretend I'm really tough, and then I have to have quiet time in my room where I think to myself, that person has a wife and 3 kids, and this person has this, and that person has this. And then I keep thinking to myself, but if I carry that person, everybody else suffers. So I have to do this. And I just reflect, work out why that person was hired, make sure that the wrong hires don't keep getting hired, make sure that other people aren't put into that same situation. I can't do anything about what was here before, but I can fix everything going forwards. And that's the only way you can appease your soul.
That's really hard. We had to do that. We had to let go of some people that were like helped us start out, but you know, the numbers and the morale, it's like they pissed in the pool, you know what I mean? And now the pool had urine in it or whatever. But
yeah.
My brother does it another way. He does he used to work for BNSF, so the railroad. He would do audits for do you know what I'm talking about? The transportation company.
Yep.
So he would have to do audits on people's value, like using numbers. So like, what value are you adding? And, you know, do the numbers add up?
It's exactly what I do, but I don't talk about it in numbers. What I say is numbers tell me the truth. I say numbers tell me the truth. People never tell you the truth. And people add context to what you already know. So my rule of thumb is every week when I go into an operations meeting in any company I'm at, including here, I don't ask any questions in those meetings that I don't already know the answer to. And I do that specifically because I go in and I say, why have we had a 4% drop in blah, blah, blah. And if I know, I can work out very quickly whether people are prepared to just lie to make up an answer, whether people know their numbers, whether people are actually invested in their role and they understand what the mechanics are. Some people say, I've got a theory, but it needs to be tested. Can you please help provide data? I like that. But I don't like it when people say, oh, such and such was sick last week and then this happened. And then I think to myself, no, that's not what happened. You haven't read your report. We're very much driven on data. Data doesn't lie, but people will. Data first and then work out the context second.
Yeah, that's smart. It kind of helps you get your heart out of the situation too, because I'm just like,
yes,
we got to keep going. That's tough.
I'd rather be known as being, you know, if they say he's crazy or he's a bit weird or whatever, I'd rather them say, but I know that what he's saying is what's happening. That's why whenever there is 2 sides of an argument, and you'll see this plenty of times, when RedFOX says something and someone else says something, everybody always comes back and says, can you do a video? And they've even done memes of me and stuff, and it says, if it doesn't come out of my mouth, it wasn't said. Because I said it one time in one interview, and now there's a whole lot of memes. So now they say, can you get on a video for just 2 minutes and say it to us? Because we know that if you said it, then it's real. So they say, did this happen? And I say, no, this did not happen. And here's the thing. And then they go, that's it. That's the end of the argument. And you see other people come back and say, don't you want to hear our side? Do you want to know what? And they say, no, Benny said this, and we know that. And you've got a history of saying something that's not true. So his word's right. And he's pointed us to such and such. So the reputation's good. It means the people that follow you are devout followers. And the few people that you upset are generally scammers or fraudulent people anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, what they say. Half of what they say is not the truth, right?
Exactly. So yeah, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But yeah, if you ever wanted to do a different type of a show or a chat or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, I definitely like that. I think that I know a lot of CEOs, and there's a lot of CEOs in the space now, especially that this is their first company in blockchain because they kind of just stumbled into this situation. And now they're being faced with, you know, like, I mean, just for an example, like Warbly, you know, like hey, I'll come buy Warbly for a couple $1 million and we're going to do this with it. And, you know, you don't know how dedicated it really was to Warbly or whatever, but there's that situation of like, if you're an entrepreneur, then at a certain point, something became your dream. And at what point do you sell that dream, or do you follow through with that dream, or do you realize that the dream was a short-lived, you know, daydream to get to your real dream? Or, you know, there's just like advice that like only CEOs would know. And like, oh, so here's another question. Like, what was going through your mind when you're being told that your 3-hour launch would not be successful? Like, was there some, like, what is that like inside of you? Was it a, you can't tell me what to do, you know, like, what's, or was there a moment of, consideration, like, will it not be
No,
successful, and think about it? Or was there something inside of you
we
like,
did.
nope, they're wrong?
We did a whole heap of data research, and we did a lot of, now you see Atari did the same thing. A lot of companies are going to start doing the same thing. Then Street Fighter had mentioned that they were potentially interested in having some Street Fighter cogs, and so was South Park, as a series of cogs that could be used in games, but they can't be competing games to Street Fighter, or they have to, you know, you have to license the rights. And we said, no, we want to emerge new artists. No, you have to have the big brands, and you have to do the 3 hours, and you have to do that. And I became a bit conflicted as a CEO. I walked around and I sort of thought, one of my guys came up to me and he said, Benny, you always say it, we can't do what everybody else did, because our model says in the third point of the funnel system, we have to be third to fifth to market. Why are we not first or second, Benny? And I say, they always remind me, and I say, because there's legislative issues and you have to go through the setup and it's difficult. Why are we third to fifth? Because the market's not saturated. We can still take a lot of the market share and blah, blah, blah. But what's the advantage of being third to fifth? We can do things differently. We can learn from their mistakes. We don't follow what they do. Otherwise, we have to work doubly as hard to get the same market share for doing the same output, because people have already seen this before. So what are we going to do? Are we going to listen to statistics and Magic the Gathering and all these things that work? Or are we going to say, we've got a successful cookie cutter model that's worked 2 or 3 times on a token platform, and are we going to do it that way? And I said, yeah, okay, you're right. And then the gaming guy came up to me and he says, why are you listening to those people? I listen to you, you research, those people don't research. I listen to you, do it, and it'll work. And I said, are we all sure? And they all said, 100% sure. So we just went out and did it. And we, as soon as it worked, I turned around and did the whole, a massive sigh of relief. And I looked around at them, and the most humbling experience in the world, they all turned around and said, see, why were you so worried?
Oh my gosh. What a great
They
story.
believed
I'm like
so
on the verge of
strongly.
like tears of like, this should be a
Yeah. I was like,
That's
I
such a
get that
great
every
story.
day. I think to myself, like, man, and they go, you don't do what other people do. If you go out there and talk about it, you've researched it, you understand it. We know through law of averages, you have to work about 30% harder to get the same result doing the same thing if you're doing it straight after somebody else, because you have to steal their attention away. You have to get them to leave. It's much harder. So we said we have to do it different, otherwise we're dead. So we're very thankful for what we've been given and the opportunity, and we hope that WAX are very thankful that we've brought something across of quality as well. And I think that ultimately we're building a game there. That's the biggest compliment you could possibly give. Just on that, I'll give you one little parting story that you might like. Okay. I used to work for a guy called Denis O'Brien, and he's the richest man in Ireland, and he owns Digicel and all the newspapers and radio stations, and he's a very, very, very rich man. He's a very intimidating man. And I worked for him and turned around his Chinese company. And I went into him one day and he said to me in front of the whole board and my best mate, who subsequently quit after this first meeting because he said he's too terrifying. And he said to me, he said, are you going to be able to do this by next month? He's Irish. And I said, I can do it by next month. And he said, you reckon you can increase the sales by 240%? And I said, I can do it. And he goes, what's your plan? And I said, my plan is this, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get there. I'm going to be able to do it because that's what you need me to do. And then he says, sign your name on a piece of paper. And he made me sign my name in front of the whole group of people. And he said, with that signature, you'll be quitting if you don't reach the target. And I thought, oh no. Okay, this is 131 offices across China in all these different cities. And I've come back in the next month and I've got to 242%, just above, right? I've come into the room And I've started dancing, and I'm like, yeah. And he's looked at me and he says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm celebrating. And he goes, celebrating what? And I said, you told me to get 240%. I got 242. And he said, so why are you dancing? And I said, because I got it. And he goes, so you mean to say you didn't think you could get it? And I said,
Well.
no. I said, I thought I could get it. And then he goes, then why are you celebrating? All you've done is what you told me you were going to do. Why would you celebrate that? And then he said, get out of my office. I don't want to see you again for the day. And I've walked out the office and I thought, oh no. I was so proud of my accomplishment. I did what was seemingly impossible, but he taught me a very valuable lesson. And that's exactly what you said you were going to do. Don't celebrate what you said you were going to do. Celebrate something that was 20 times more successful. But if you said you're going to do something and then you celebrate when you've done it, it means you didn't think you could do it. And then he loses trust. And I thought these types of lessons are like only lessons you can learn from guys who have started with nothing and made billions and billions of dollars. And now I teach all my guys, if they celebrate when they reach their targets, I say, why are you celebrating? And same exact lesson over and over again, just like your dad does to you and you do to your kids.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
You're like a wealth full of knowledge that you've learned from billionaires. That's awesome. That's awesome. Like how often can, I guess I don't mean to like embarrass you. I just wanted to say that that's really fortunate for you to have gathered so much wisdom from people that think differently, and that's the kind of results they get are very different, and they teach you these lessons and you're able to like teach this team, and so much so that they have more faith in you than sometimes you have in yourself, even though you're like the guy that is all about having faith in yourself. Like that's so awesome. You're so blessed. You have a great team. That's
getting
really
there,
cool.
but getting there was the hard part, because when I was about 22, I said, by the time I'm 30, I'll be a CEO. And I made a list. I said, I'm going to work for Richard Branson, Denis O'Brien, and Jack Welch. And I moved to Ireland so that I could get noticed by Denis O'Brien. Moved to the Philippines to work for Virgin, but Jack Welch had already retired. But the thing was, I actually targeted the people that I wanted to learn from, and then I had to get into high enough positions by the time I had to get to a CEO by 30 so that I could actually get positions where I directly reported to these people or worked for these people. So the thing is that it was robotic. It's a very weird thing to do, but to spend 10 or 15 years of your life being dedicated to getting in front of that person so that you can learn stuff from them is a very weird life goal. But the fact is that it's
not weird.
I wish I had got to work for Jack Welch, but he was already too old and he'd gone a bit crazy by the time I was ready.
Oh man.
You know him, Jack Welch?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not a name dropper. I'm not.
Oh wow. He was the guy that ran. Jack Welch ran GE, General Electric. He turned it from being a terrible company into one of the biggest companies in the world. If you find a couple of people in your life that you think, I'd like to go work for that person, they're always generally older because they've had a good life and experience. But the one that's around the same age is Tony Hsieh. You probably heard of the guy that runs Zappos, the online internet company. That guy, he's the same age as I am, but what he's done in his life and how many billions he's made and lives he's changed, those types of people are just like, they're awesome. And the good thing about them is if you reach out to those people and you have something of interest to say and you understand what they want to hear, like I spoke to him for 3 months and he said, come over when you've finished doing what you're doing and you can do a contract and we'll do some stuff together. And you sort of think to yourself, yes, but just knowing that that's possible is as good as actually going over there and doing it. But they're all just normal human beings and they're all just looking for good people to work with. So I think anyone who doesn't get the chance to work for someone that they can learn a lot from is kind of like wasting their time.
That's really wise.
Yeah.
That's really deep too. I appreciate that a lot.